Okay, back for a video. It's been a while. So we're going to do, I've been working with a student with some groupings of notes and a little bit of beat displacement. I went through some of my old MI curriculum and I found a page by Casey Sherrill, who's a great player, played with Michelle Camilo and also Cliff Almond, who graduated I think a year or two before I did, who's also an amazing player. Also played with Michelle Camilo. You should check both of those guys out. Cliff Almond has a lot more probably YouTube videos with Michelle Camilo. Just incredible. He was an incredible player then, and he was young. He's probably younger than me, even though he graduated before me. But anyway, so we're going to talk about some basic concepts that might be a little bit advanced for some people. It's weird. They're sort of advanced concepts, but very basic versions of them. So I think everyone could basically understand these, but they're kind of cool. They were for me back in the day when I first learned them and heard about them. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, and I'm trying not to spend so much time on this video, even though I probably could, because I could delve much deeper into the concepts. But we're going to talk about beat displacement. So basically, first time I ever heard this was probably on Chick Corea Electric Band, probably Light Years. I think in the chorus they do this, Patitucci and Weckel sort of displace the rhythm by an eighth note, I think. It might be a 16th, but I think it's an eighth. So we're going to talk about a real simple rhythm. Everyone knows the basic 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'll try to have this up on the page so you can see it, because again, I found this page from my MI curriculum, and it was really just, again, a basic concept, and then they obviously, like always at MI, and then they give you the basic concept, and then they destroy you with concepts that you'll probably never learn, but they give you all kinds of stuff to work on. So anyway, so that's the basic rhythm. Can you play this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to displace that. We're going to move the eighth note down 1. So we're going to displace it by an eighth note, okay? So here we go. A good thing to do is count this out loud. You want to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and you could really feel that displacement. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, that's it. So you basically take everything except the ride pattern, and you can do that also. You can shift everything down an eighth note. That's just another, I would say that's probably a step more difficult to do it that way, to then shift everything. You could do it, we're going to talk about 16ths, we're going to shift. But for right now, we're going to stick with sort of the basic concept. So we're just shifting the bass drum and the eighth note, the bass drum and the snare drum, an eighth note down. You can also shift them up and move them an eighth note before, and it gives a different feel. So either one, you can mess around with it, but it's very cool. It's just fun to do rhythmically. So now we're going to do a 16th note version of that. We're going to have a pattern where we have a 16th note bass drum part, sort of a dotted eighth 16th. The bass drum is going to fall on the of 2, and then we're going to shift everything down a 16th note instead of shifting everything down an eighth note. So the basic rhythm is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're going to take that and we're going to shift everything down a 16th note. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay? So the first one, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time, because I did a double kick in there or something. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, cool. Both of those will get you kicked right out of the band if you do that without telling everyone else you're going to do it, because everyone will freak out. I've done it just for fun during rehearsals. I don't think I've ever done it live. I might have done it live a couple times, but they kind of knew that I was going to do it because of rehearsal. So, but it's cool if you get the bass player on board. They play the bass line, an 8th note off, a 16th note off, and it really gives a cool feel. Take a listen to Light Years. I think it's the chorus. Okay, so that's the idea of some really basic beat displacement. You can have fun with that. It's a good thing to count, okay? It's always a good thing to count, but it's a good thing to count that pulse so you can feel that pulse against the movement of the rhythm. Okay, so now, you know I love, as I turned the sheet over in this unit chapter, whatever this was, 17 or something, so we had the beat displacement, and then we had some playing in groupings of 7 while you're playing in 4, which I think if you've seen some of my previous videos of playing groupings of 5s and 7s, I'm a huge fan of doing that. I think I have a previous video of 5s and 7s. As a matter of fact, I had this 7 grouping. One of the things, I don't remember the names of my videos, unfortunately, but it's one of the things I sent to Weckel. I sent to Weckel that one thing where I played, I think, these groupings of 7, this flow of 7. It was the one thing where he commented, he emailed me and said, oh, he really liked the concept and how I played it and stuff, which was very cool of him to do. But it was these groupings of 7. So that was a little different. I was doing it in a solo application, but this is going to be more where I'm going to play. We're going to play in 4. I'm going to put the metronome on, and then we're going to play in 7 on top of that. When will you use this? Probably never. Why did we spend so much time on it in school? I don't know. These are the things we do if you go to a music school. You spend a lot of time working on stuff you'll probably never use in the real world, but you spend a lot of time working on these strange things, metric modulation, implied time. By the way, that's not what any of this is. Nothing that you're hearing here, the beat displacement or playing in 7/4, that's not implied time. That's not metric modulation. I'm not really good at that. A friend of mine, Eric Graho, sorry if I butchered your last name, who went to school with me, he has a cool video somewhere on YouTube. If anyone's interested in metric modulation, implied time, he does some cool stuff with it. And I'm sure, I think it's on YouTube. If you were interested, I could find the link for you and get a hold of him, because he's done it, he's taken it and kind of done it really well. I could barely do it. So, but he does a really good job with it. But that's not what we're doing now. Okay, so this is not metric modulation or implied time. Okay, so we're going to play basically some 4 in 4/4, but we're going to be playing in 7/8. So we have to resolve it, right? So we have a sort of a cool fill idea with a grouping, and then we have a rhythm that we're going to play. Okay, so the idea of the fill, the sticking, and as you know, again, watch my previous videos, huge fan of stickings, combinations. To me, that's where everything's at. So we're going to do this simple combination of right, left, kick, kick, right, kick, kick. Okay, there's the first 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or taka, 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 ta. However you want to do it. Taka, 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 ta. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Taka, dimi, taka, ta. 4's taka, dimi. 3's taka, ta. 2's taka. So taka, 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 taka. However you want to do it. Steve Smith has all that Indian and accounting stuff, and he does all this stuff with his index fingers. Spend your lifetime figuring it out if you want, but you can just learn a little bit of it if you want. So this is a cool little Casey Sherrill thing. 1, 2, or 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Right, left, kick, kick. Right, left, kick, kick. Sorry, right, left, kick, kick. Right, kick, kick. Right, left, kick, kick. Right, kick, kick. That's the first 7. The second 7, left, right, kick, kick. Left, kick, kick. So right, left, kick, kick. Right, kick, kick. Left, right, left, 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 kick, kick. Right, left, kick, kick. Right, kick, kick. Left, right, left, left. Or sorry, left, right, kick, kick. Left, kick, kick. So that's this figure, okay? And it sounds something like this. That's 4 7s in a row. Now we've got to resolve it with 4 notes, or 3 notes, but we have 4 16th notes. So that's going to end on beat 4, okay? And this is a 2-bar phrase, right? So this is going to end on beat 4, so you can do whatever you want. 4 the what's written is right, left, kick, 4 and, basically. So the groupings together, the 4 7s. Okay? So if I play a rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. That's the feel, that's the sound you get. And if you like that,
1, 2, 3, 4.
We're going to put it on around 115 with the metronome.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. That's the sound you get by this pattern, okay? Again, it's just 7 groupings of 7 with this pattern. Obviously, you can do this with hand patterns.
1, 2,
3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay? You could do stuff like that. So you could do your 7s, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Do 4 of those. There's another sticking. You can do right, right, left, left, right, left, left. That's actually what's on top of the page in this unit. So if you did that,
1,
2, 3, 4.
2, 3,
Okay?
4.
4 7s,
3, 4.
and then resolve it with 4.
3,
4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. So when you get done with those 7s, your first note out of the 7, you're landing on beat 4. Okay, that's what's going on there in this 2-bar phrase. Okay, so that's doing fills when you're working in 4. So real quick, so now we're going to change gears again. We're going to go down and we're going to play a rhythm in 7 over top 4. Okay, so if we're playing in 4 and we really want to kind of change it up, and sometimes you hear bands do this, a lot of fusion bands do this. They'll play and all of a sudden it'll be like, wow, where did the time go? It went somewhere, and they're playing and all of a sudden, boom, they're right back in on 1 somewhere. They're usually doing some kind of odd grouping, right? Either they're grouping like it's a fill thing and they're doing it, or for a longer period of time they could play. In this instance, we're going to play 4 bars of 7, and then but we're really still in 4. So if we do the 4 bars of 7 8, and then we resolve it with a bar of 4 8, we're right back in on 1. I'm not a super huge, I know this is blasphemous, I'm not a super huge fan of Frank Zappa, but I appreciate all the crazy rhythms, and obviously Vinnie Colaiuta, huge fan, and not a huge fan of Terry Bozzio as much, but obviously played incredible stuff with Zappa. Ralph Humphrey, obviously huge fan of his, one of my teachers at school played with Zappa, and really is how I learned this odd time stuff with the taka taka takatas and all that stuff. A great book of his called Even in the Odds if you're interested in odd groupings of notes and stuff. So so I'm going to play, basically I'm going to put the metronome on. We're going to play 4 bars, okay, of 4, and we're going to see what happens here. What happens if I could figure it out and end up on 1, okay, which is going to be 4 bars of 4 consists of 4 bars of 7 and then a bar of 4 8, and we're going to see what happens. So you could pick whatever 7 you want to play, okay? So
1, 2,
3, 4. If I'm playing, I'm playing a rhythm of 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, here we go. We're going to play 7. 7 again. the key here is when you start to play in 7 with that on, when you finish those 4 bars of 7/8 on top of the 4/4, you're ending on beat 3 of the 4th measure. So you know you're locked in if you could play your 7 and you're done, and that first downbeat out of that, if you have your metronome on, is going to be beat 3. And then you play whatever, 3 and the 4 and or whatever, 3 and 4 and then you nail that 1 and everybody's back in and everyone thinks, whoa, what happened? Where did they go? They all took the time over here, or they think you're doing some weird, again, like metric thing. You're not really, you're just playing in 7 and then you resolve it with this 4. So one more time.
1,
2,
2,
3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's some basic ideas. I kind of played around with everything there at the end. I did the 7, and then with the metronome going, I switched into the beat displacement. I played the 4, and then I displaced it by an 8th note, and then I played the rhythm and displaced it by a 16th note, and then I went back to playing in 7 over the pulse. So you could play around with this stuff. You could take this stuff way out of the stratosphere and play some wild stuff. Again, this might be complex. It might be the start of some complex rhythms for some of you, but this is really the beginning point for these things, and you can get really crazy into this, using lots of different things. So I think you should have fun with it. I think it's a fun concept. I know I like to you take your Ted Reed book, or back in the day, we didn't have computers and stuff, so you take Ted Reed, make a copy or something, and then you would just accent every 7th, 16th note, and then you would see how you resolve it, or you would accent every 5th, and you would do all these things and come up with these rhythms and fills, and you would work on them, and again, most likely never play them unless you were lucky enough I was lucky enough to play them a little bit in my fusion band, but for the most part, certainly not in pop or rock or in your church band or wherever you're playing. So, but they're cool concepts. There's just, rhythm is cool, and it's math, and I'm not exactly great at math, but I was better at rhythm than I was at algebra. That I know for sure. So anyway, so have fun with these. Again, groups of 7, beat displacement, playing 7/8 time over top 4/4 time. I'll make some copies of these things and have them up on the screen when I'm playing them. And practice, practice, practice. If this is a little above your head, don't worry about it. Keep playing what you're playing. If you find it interesting, get into it. It's pretty cool. I know I had a lot of fun with it. And if you're really interested in that metric modulation, implied time stuff, let me know, and I could talk to my friend Eric, who has some videos on that, and you could watch that. That's much more advanced, though. In my opinion. So this I think you could grasp. Okay, practice, 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 and let me know if you like the video. Like, subscribe, all of that stuff. Hey, I couldn't believe I looked at my John Bonham video the other day. I had 750 views. That is not my best video, believe me. That one is, I guess because it's John Bonham, everyone flocks to it. Maybe some of the Rush ones in Portnoy, maybe people like those too. I'm a little surprised. Anyway, there are much better videos on my page than the rock and roll ending video. So anyway, hope you like this one. And practice, practice. Groupings of 7, beat displacement.